House is facing serious questions about their priorities after Vice President Kamala Harris pledged to send $157 million of additional assistance to Lebanon an hour before she pledged $100 million to aid in North Carolina. Watch this.
President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
No, the way you're asking me the question is misinformation. Yes. What you're asking me is why Congress needs to come back and do their job. That's what you're asking me. Congress needs to come back and do their job and provide extra assistance, extra funding to disaster relief fund. That's what Congress needs to do, and we're going to continue to urge that. You may not want that, but that's okay. That's what this president wants, and that's what the vice president wants. Thanks, everybody.
North Carolina residents are pleading for more assistance from the government to help them recover from Hurricane Helene.
My daughter, whose house got completely wiped out, she has no flood insurance, meets with a FEMA person, applies for everything she doesn't get the $750 that Kamala says that she's supposed to get, gets approved for $300 for personal items. What is that going to do?
Where are you? These people have lost their homes, they've lost their businesses, they've lost everything, and they need some support. They need help. And $750 is not much help.
It's just horrible. So the FEMA administrator confirming to Fox News that the agency does not have enough funds to last beyond immediate needs.
We don't have enough money to continue throughout the rest of the year. And we went into immediate needs funding earlier in the year to make sure we could do just what we've been doing through Helene, as well as now the preparations for Milton.
While FEMA says they are running out of funds, a DHS Inspector General report finds that FEMA had $8.3 billion in unliquidated funds meant to relieve declared disasters from 2012 or earlier. More than $7 billion of that could potentially be returned to the Disaster Relief Fund. But analysts say FEMA cannot tap into unspent funds from long ago crises, so the money stays frozen. Guys.
Bureaucracy at its worst.
Guess what? What? F you, FEMA! F you! F you! Hey! Guess what I got in this bag?
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. This is a special emergency broadcast from a shelter that we have evacuated to 7 hours north of Tampa. We are safe. My family is safe. For those of you calling, texting, asking in the comment section, I want to begin by saying, praise God, we are safe. We were listening to the elected representatives who were getting hurricane briefings, listening to DeSantis' team and our elected officials, and we decided to depart and decamp yesterday morning at 5 a.m. Today is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. We are now powered by Starlink from a safe location, broadcasting in order to get information out about this hurricane because it will be devastating to our area where we live and broadcast from in Tampa, the entire western seaboard of Florida. Please be prepared. In this show, we will be joined by multiple members of Congress who represent Pinellas County, Anna Paulina Luna, and Sarasota, Greg Steube, who will be joining us to give updates about the hurricane itself. But as you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, we have evacuated. This is what I posted yesterday as we were on the road. The map shows a direct hit of Tampa, Florida. This is going to be horrifying. Where we live, there is a lot of water. The danger is going to be flooding. The danger is going to be unsafe roads. The danger is going to be the debris from Hurricane Helene that is still floating around. Consider a bunch of splinters, springs, metal objects that suddenly flood your house, and then the water becomes like dangerous shards all throughout the water. You can't drive in, you can't drive out. I have 3 little children. I have a pregnant wife. The decision was very, very easy for me. Of course, you got to drop everything and get your families to safety. Please, I don't care who you are or where you are. If you are in the path of this hurricane, you should seek shelter. you should do it right now. That's what this entire show is about, ladies and gentlemen. We went north. This is where we went, north. It said you could potentially go to Miami. We have team members that went to Miami. If you were here, please go north. I know a lot of people who went to Orlando, but, well, Hurricane Ian, Orlando got it worse than Tampa. They're supposed to, hit in Tampa. So avoid this part. I know there's a lot of traffic right now. And there's a lot of horrors. This is where the tracker is showing on Wednesday. This thing is going to make landfall. On Thursday, it's going to really start ripping. By Thursday evening, we should see some of the totality of the damage. I may lose my house, but I won't lose my family. I won't lose the things that are actually precious in my life. We may lose our studio where we broadcast from. I don't know. Our studio is in downtown Tampa. Tampa's never seen a storm like this. Some people say it's a special Indian burial grounds. Some people say it's MacDill Air Force Base and CENTCOM. I'm not sure, but this is what all of my neighbors, I got to tell you, I live in a neighborhood that is old Florida, right? Bunch of Floridians. It's nice, peaceful, little family-centric neighborhood. And all of my neighbors are from Florida, and they said, get out now, is what they said. And so that's what we did. We listened to smart people and some of the people online saying, some of the smart meteorologists online saying that this could potentially be the worst storm in history. Noah Bergen is a meteorologist saying this is nothing short of astronomical. I'm at a loss for words to meteorologically describe the storm with an eye of this intensity and pressure. 180 mile per hour winds. This is something that could absolutely and totally devastate your house. I don't care what house you're living in. This is one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded. The eye is teeny, and this hurricane is nearing a mathematical limit of what Earth's atmosphere and ocean can produce. The mathematical limit of what Earth's atmosphere and ocean can produce. If this thing turns into a Category 5 or stays a Category 4, we have a descriptor of what may happen to your home. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens to your house in Category 1 through 5 hurricanes. Let's go.
Let's start off with a Category 1 storm. And the damage here, not too bad. A couple of shingles fall off. You can have some palm fronds bending in the wind, but everything basically remains intact. Category 2, that's where you really start to feel it. Look at the windows of the house. They can be hit from debris from the outside and already start breaking in a Category 2. Your trees are significantly bent over in the wind, and the siding of the house itself can break, flapping there in the wind, adding to those eerie noises inside. Category 3. I've heard only a Category 3, but it's not only anything except really bad news. In a Category 3, you can have the door of the house blown in because the winds get so strong. You can have the roof of the house start to flap up and down in the wind because it can lift off those weak points, and a lot of those trees start to fall. Category 4, the damage is even worse. You get most trees falling, most of your windows breaking, most of your shingles fly away, and then Cat 5 is as high as the category scale goes. By Cat 5, no shingles remain anywhere nearby. The holes in the roof get so big that the walls of the house start to fall because they're not attached to anything anymore. There won't be any trees up in the neighborhood. That's just catastrophic damage. But again, that's just from the wind, and there are other impacts from hurricanes, and they all vary through the season. So stick with the Weather Channel to keep you safe when the tropics head towards your neck of the woods.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're very thankful for videos like that and for the elected officials, some of whom will be joining the program right now, Anna Paulina Luna especially, who warned me and my family to get out. There's no way I'm going to let my children stay in a Category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane with this happening to your home. You're just not a wise person to do that. You just get up and leave. There are things that are more valuable than your property or your curiosity about these storms or your indifference to your own safety, and that's the safety, obviously, of your family. You can replace homes, cars, anything. You can't replace your own life. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got into our car 5 a.m. yesterday, got my little kids up, and I poured myself blackout coffee. I poured myself this coffee because it is the coffee, obviously, that powers our program. I had an entire pot Before we hit the road, I had like a massive coffee cup. And it lasted me a few hours as we were driving. Blackout Coffee is the coffee that we drink. It is a great Florida family brand, and this state's going to need support. And so it's good for you to support the brands that are based here, the families that are based here. They're patriots. They love this place. This entire state is filled with such wonderful people. We need to pray for them. Blackout Coffee is what I drink in the morning, including yesterday when we were evacuating my family. Somebody who clearly doesn't actually care about the state of Florida, but only cares about her own political future is Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris' campaign is failing. The polls show that Kamala Harris is collapsing. So Kamala Harris decided to wage a political war with Ron DeSantis while he's preparing, and doing an incredible job, by the way, preparing for the evacuation of his state. Kamala Harris decided to start sniping at DeSantis because DeSantis wasn't returning her phone calls. That's right. It's like we're in an episode of Mean Girls here. There are Americans who are being pulled from mud, dead in Appalachia. Our sources at a hospital near Asheville tell us that they just requested 1,000 more body bags. So that's what's happening. And Kamala Harris goes on a sex podcast called Call Her Daddy, and then begins to fight with the governor of a state that is bracing for a once-in-a-millennia storm. Here's Kamala Harris in what is a disqualifying video, one of many, picking a fight with DeSantis yesterday.
President, Governor DeSantis, NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes, resources, and help. How does that hurt the situation here?
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
Are you the president? You can just tell us. Are you actually the sitting president? If that's who you are, then Ron DeSantis should be accepting your phone call. If you are not the sitting president, as I remember, you shivved in the back Joe Biden and shoved him into a trash compactor, yet you've still allowed him to remain president. So it's actually the president who makes these calls. He's the executive and commander-in-chief, and Ron DeSantis has been speaking with Joe Biden. You are the vice president. You have virtually zero constitutional power. You're very low IQ. You're a stupid person, and you weren't part of any of the other disasters. In fact, you've made everything far worse. And so why don't we check ourselves here and go ahead and tune into Ron DeSantis and his response, as he's an actual adult, and find out what's truly going on. Ron DeSantis pulling out a nuclear flamethrower on Kamala Harris last night on Hannity, saying this is utterly disgraceful and inappropriate for her to try and insert herself because she botched Hurricane Helene. This is all happening because Hurricane Helene has been an atrocious disaster. Kamala's seeing her polling cratering, and now she's trying to, for political purposes, insert herself into a storm and to politic off the disaster of people losing their lives here in my home state. It makes my blood boil. I have rarely been this angry on the show. I am so proud of DeSantis for responding like this.
And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No. And here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process. I'm in contact with the President of the United States. I'm in contact with FEMA director. I'm obviously managing all our state agencies. We're supporting all our local government. And I will say this. I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games. I've got people whose lives are on the line. I've got people whose homes and their possessions are on the line, and we are focused 100% on that mission. I'm not worried about playing her political games. And so she is being selfish by trying to blunder into this when we're working just fine.
Ron DeSantis has done an amazing job down here. As we were driving up, we saw nothing but military vehicles, linemen, cars, heavy movers moving towards Tampa. Those brave men who go and head into the storm, who run towards the gunfire. Ron DeSantis himself, a veteran who deeply understands this ethos. Part of the reason why I moved my family down here, man. Part of the reason why I moved my family down here was having actual leadership that's willing to run toward the storm and help. This is the role. This is the role. This is what people say they're a public servant. Most people miss the servant part of it. They've sicked all the hounds on DeSantis for daring to do this. If you're to find somebody who's arguably more low IQ than Kamala Harris in the federal government, look no further than cringe Jean-Pierre, who dressing like a villain from a Batman or Dick Tracy movie yesterday, decided to once again attack the governor, whose state it is they are trying to help. What the hell is wrong with these people? Here we go.
There was a report, I believe it was NBC, just as we were coming out, that Governor DeSantis dodging calls with Vice President Harris and President Biden. Is that an issue? Is politics starting to sink into this?
I mean, that's really for the governor to speak to, right? You've heard me mention, I believe in the gaggle last week when we were heading to Florida and Georgia, we invited the governor, right, to come and survey the damaged areas with the president. Obviously, we're in Florida. We invited the governor of Florida to come. It was his decision to not attend or not be there with the president. The president has reached out around Hurricane Helene. He reached out. It is up to the governor. It is really up to the governor. We know, I can say, and I think you've heard this from the FEMA administrator. She has been able to speak with the governor. She spoke with him yesterday in regards to Milton.
So I guess cringe Jean-Pierre has seen the success of the Penguin miniseries on HBO Max and has decided to dress like the Penguin. She looks like the bad guy out of, like, the gangster out of The Mask. You ever seen The Mask? Like, there's like the gangster dude. That's what she looks like. She looks like she's in a Jim Carrey movie from the 90s. These are not serious people. They're not behaving seriously. I cannot believe that I have to say this. You should not feel bad for Joe Biden. You should not laud Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been arguably the worst president of my life, this side of George W. Bush. I'm not a fan of George W. Bush, but we'll see how it looks. But Joe Biden, arguably the worst president of my lifetime. Yet, moments ago at the White House, Joe Biden decided to nuke not only cringe Jean-Pierre, but Kamala Harris by saying that Ron DeSantis is a great governor. Here we go.
Mr. President,
the governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call. So I don't know. There was a rough start in some places, but every governor from Florida to North Carolina has been fully cooperative and supportive and acknowledged what this team is doing. And they're doing an incredible job. But we got a lot more to do.
It's like we're near Halloween here, okay? And it is kind of spooky out. It's like a whole crux was taken off of Joe Biden. It's like a curse was lifted off Joe Biden, and now Joe Biden is like governing as the centrist and not the far left-wing psychotic radical. I think that's probably where Joe Biden wanted to govern from, but was yanked to his left flank by George Soros and all the psychopaths in his administration. And now Joe Biden's putting on MAGA hats, Trump 2024 hats, and sitting around and talking smack with Trump supporters and hugging them and doing stuff like this, where he's saying Ron DeSantis and I are getting along great and I'm here to help, and he says he has what he needs and we're here to help him. Something happened with Joe Biden, right? The curse moved to Kamala, right? The curse to be a wretched, America-hating lunatic who views everything through some type of venomous partisan lens and politicizes every single thing. That has now moved from Joe Biden. That blackened curse has moved off of Joe Biden's back and is now on to the next one, right? The next Muppet. It's incredible. But this is Joe Biden just nuking the narrative that Ron DeSantis hates Florida because he won't pick up our phone calls. Well, maybe Ron DeSantis won't pick up your phone calls because he thinks that it's a Batman villain calling. Maybe Ron DeSantis won't pick up your phone calls because you look like a character from The Mask. Maybe you're FaceTime calling him. Have you ever thought about that? And you're wearing this. And so he doesn't want to be hit with your umbrella gas, right? As you go, wah, 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 wah. Maybe that. Have you ever considered that? He doesn't want to hear somebody say, he's in the middle of a disaster. He doesn't want to hear somebody say, why so serious on the other end of the line. You ever consider that? Just thought. All right. So the humiliation continues with Karine Jean-Pierre apparently walking out when she's pressed over the fact that they spent all the money that was meant for Americans in disasters on criminal aliens. Let's go.
This issue of funding. The administration has money to send to Lebanon without Congress coming back. But Congress does have to come back to approve money to send to people in North Carolina. Do I have that right?
Here's what I'm going to be very clear about. The president and the vice president has had a robust whole of government response to this. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I said it at the top, more than $200 million that we have directly put towards survivors here for disaster help. And that's because of this president's commitment to make sure that we are there for communities that are impacted. We take this very seriously again. We take this very seriously. And before the hurricane hit, we pre-positioned more than 1,500 federal folks on the ground to help. And so we have made sure that every state has gotten their storm requested emergency declaration. They requested it, and we made sure they received it. We've taken this very seriously. More than $200 million that we have provided to the impacted areas. But instead, people want to do disinformation, misinformation, which is dangerous. Because then when folks on the ground hear that, they may not want to ask for the help that they need. That is there for them.
President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you do? Yes, it's misinformation.
Is there money to send to Lebanon right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than $200 million to folks who are impacted in the area, and I just shared with you that people are deciding not to. People are deciding not to.
Letter to Congress that there's not enough money to help people in North Carolina.
We're talking about the SBA disaster loan.
That's money for people in North Carolina,
and that's important. And people in North Carolina need that. Wait, this is nothing new. Peter, this is nothing new. Congress comes together, they provide money, millions of dollars, for disaster relief. We're asking them to do the job that they have been doing for some time.
From a letter that President Biden sent to Johnson, McConnell, Schumer, and Jeffries. The president's letter is not misinformation. Would you agree?
No, the way you're asking me the question is misinformation. There is money that we are allocating to the impacted areas, and there's money there to help people who truly need it. There are survivors who need the funding.
You
And it's there.
That you don't like misinformation.
I said
That's very
that, I actually said we have the money available to help survivors of Hurricane Helene and also Hurricane Milton. Now, there's going to be a shortfall, right? Because we don't know how bad Hurricane Milton is going to be. And so we're going to need additional funding. We're going to need additional funding.
That's exactly what I just asked about. And you said it was misinformation. Yes.
What you're asking me is why Congress needs to come back and do their job. That's what you're asking me. Congress needs to come back and do their job and provide extra assistance, extra funding to disaster relief fund. That's what Congress needs to do, and we're going to continue to urge that. You may not want that, but that's okay. That's what this president wants, and that's what the vice president wants. Thanks, everybody.
The reason why you must pray for the state of Florida is because we've been able to see the horrors that an America Last administration can wreak on a beautiful, patriotic community like the one that I live in. In North Carolina, there are still bodies being pulled from the mud, and they will still be pulled from the mud for months from now. The federal government is not acting. They are sitting on their hands, and they're mewling, bitching, and complaining that they don't have enough dollars because they spend it all on criminal aliens to try and rig the election. Ladies and gentlemen, residents of North Carolina, if you need to look at what may happen to Florida in the worst case scenario, all you need to do is look a few states north and see that life for them is a living hell right now.
What would your message be to Vice President Kamala Harris and to the White House? What do you have to say to them? I mean, she's spent time on, these shows, podcasts. You haven't seen the response. I know I've been up to Chimney Rock. I've never seen such devastation in my life. It looks like a war zone. I know people lost their life up there as well. What would your message be to her in the White House? Sean would like to know.
Where are you? Where are you? These people have lost their homes, they've lost their businesses, they've lost everything, and they need some support. They need help. And $750 is not much help.
Where the hell are you? Congresswoman Anna Paulina joining the show in just a moment. She's been just excellent on this issue. Like, where the hell did the money go? Sure as hell isn't going to Americans. Anna Paulina on social media asking, where'd all the money go? Exactly. I think we know the answer. Here we go.
Carolina's underwater, 1,000 people missing. While Pinellas County, we had 11 deaths, and we have a majority of our residents that aren't going to be able to come back to their homes because they're completely destroyed. You have Mayorkas, the Biden-Harris administration, and radical leftists in Washington, mostly in the Democrat Party, gave illegals $1.1 billion in housing assistance. People that never paid into the system. Mind you, they wouldn't have been here in the first place if they weren't campaigning on open borders, but that's a separate video. You should be pissed. And if you think as a legislator, I'm not pissed, and I don't see the games that happen in Washington hoping that you're not paying attention, because that's how it goes up there, is they hope the American people are too busy working to pay attention to the crap that they're doing. I'm telling you, you need to get out and vote, because this is not going to stop. It's just going to continue with the inflation, with the border security issues, and now we have Americans that are literally dying, not being able to get assistance, and the administration says, it's okay, we'll give you $750. Meanwhile, they said our tax dollars overseas to fund countries that don't need it, and they give it to illegal immigrants.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining the program now, the great Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who's part of the reason that I was able to evacuate. So we're deeply thankful for her and her leadership. Let's go. Joining now, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. I would just want to begin by saying thank you. It's your constant alerts to my family that got us to evacuate and evacuate early, and I really appreciate that. It wasn't inside information. The Congresswoman has probably been the first and foremost out front on social media saying it's time to take your safety into your own hands now. Thank you, Congresswoman.
I appreciate it. Yeah, honestly, it's good that you guys left when you did, though, too, because as you're seeing now, a lot of people are trying to get out, and it's a little bit chaotic right now. So
really important to follow members of Congress and people who are trustworthy, who are inside of these briefings. I know you are putting up an enormous amount of information on your social media handles, along with your website and so on, for resources for people in Pinellas County and the surrounding areas.
yeah, I think it's important to know that a lot of people, because of the fact that Tampa Bay hasn't been hit direct head on, I think since the last 100 years by something like this. And then with what just happened with Helene, there was kind of this hurricane fatigue. It won't happen again. But again, what we're finding is, Helene was not a direct hit. It was literally over 100 miles off the coast, and we still had some like horrible damage, and over 12 people died in my county. But now we're finding this next hurricane is basically going to be catastrophic. I don't see any situations or scenarios where people who don't evacuate can survive this. What I'm being told currently is that we're expecting at least 15 feet of flooding. That's including some of the storm surge, but I mean, I think it's going to be worse. There's also a ton of debris. And if you look at the maps that I've been posting, it's basically going to turn Pinellas County into two islands. And we're hearing that the bridges could possibly go down, that structures on the barrier islands, if they're multifamily or multi-story high rises, that those could go down. So it's not a good situation. And really late last night, I made the decision with my husband that our home personally would not be able to withstand those Cat 3 winds. And so we actually made the decision to evacuate.
Yeah, I think that is the wise decision, especially if you have little children. You have little children. I mean, no matter what, right? But if you're able-bodied, especially if you are in charge of a household and you have little kids who are dependents on you, you have to get out. What would be your advice right now, given everything that you know up to date? We are about 24 hours before this hurricane makes landfall. Based on all of the available briefings that you have, your advice to the people from your congressional district in the greater Tampa area.
Yeah, I think that if you are in Pinellas County, I think that you should leave no matter what. I think that we're going to see at least power down for probably a week. If those bridges go down, it's not likely that supplies will be able to get in. Obviously, we're ready to respond. DeSantis has done an incredible job with organizing the National Guard out of Tropicana Field and has over 500 ambulances staged there to respond. But again, I mean, we just haven't seen something like this in over 100 years. So I would tell you, your life, you can't put a price on that. Anything else can be replaced. I know a lot of people might also be financially struggling right now. So what I would say is if you cannot evacuate, several hours away, that you can go east of 75. If you go east of 75, at least 10 miles inland, you should be okay. There's still going to be those incredibly strong winds. I know that right now, I think it's projected to make landfall at 125 miles an hour for winds. But again, I think the motto that people should remember is you run from water and you shelter from wind. And that's what we're seeing right now. But, I think DeSantis has a handle on it. His team has been incredible. We've been in constant contact with them, as well as FEMA and also to our local Pinellas County EOC. But it's not going to be good. And I really hope that people, especially if you have older family members, if you have neighbors that are older, check on them and make sure that they can leave. Because what we saw last time in a lot of those casualties was, people didn't want to be burdens on their loved ones, and they did not evacuate, and they drowned as a result of that.
Wow. So it was remarkable. We just drove 7 hours north. I cannot say it enough, and I say it profoundly, and it's selfish to take this moment to say it, but thank you for warning us. You should follow the Congresswoman on social media. We say it every single hit. Follow her on social media. These members of Congress who are privy to this information and these briefings, they tell you what to do. Get out. Follow the people who you can trust. The Congresswoman here has been saying it for days. You've been on this for a week at least, warning about this exact storm.
Yeah, since Helene happened, once we got the initial models and we saw it starting to form, I actually talked to the state of Florida directly. Actually, that was on it, I think, even before any other federal agency was. And then I yesterday just talked to the director of the National Hurricane Center. So yeah, it's important that people pay attention, but social media is such a powerful tool to be able to communicate with people, even if it's sharing resources, information. What I will say is if you can't leave Pinellas County, go to pinellas.gov. There are shelters that are open, and there are also shelters that will take animals. So a lot of people didn't want to go to shelters because they didn't want to leave their pets. We have those available. There's also ride sharing apps that are offering rides in the event that you have to evacuate to a shelter. So I share that information as well. But this is, something that you should not just take for granted. This is very serious, very deadly. And I would advise you take what you can and leave. Worst case scenario, you might not have a home, but you're going to have your life. Best case scenario is you evac for a little bit. You can go back home and everything's going to be okay. But I just don't think that, based on what I'm hearing right now, that that's going to be the case. I think that this is going to be pretty bad.
So as we were driving up north, thanks again for warning us. As I was taking my family yesterday up north, we left at 5 a.m. I saw nothing but military vehicles, linemen, and heavy movers heading south. That was about it. But it was comforting to see that the state actually taking action before disasters and devastation. Based on your most up-to-date briefings, what is the expectation for this storm? Is it going to be as catastrophic as it looks?
Yeah, I think anywhere near Tampa Bay. I mean, it's looking like it might hit Sarasota now, but even just being that close to it, it's going to be Cat 3 would be devastating. Cat 4 would be catastrophic. And I'm not in the game of hoping that something slows down. Right now, it's a Cat 5 slowing down to a Cat 4. I mean, that's the magnitude that we haven't seen. It's the fourth strongest hurricane in the history of the Gulf. And I will say this, right now, what we're finding too, especially with some of this FEMA aid, is that it's run out. And we're also finding that it went to pay for illegals, people that didn't pay into the system. Meanwhile, people in my county have already lost their lives and they're about to lose everything. Whatever was remaining, we just got hit with a hurricane, less than 10 days ago. We have now this happening. It's simply unacceptable. And so I'm really, really happy with Governor DeSantis's leadership. I think he's done an incredible job. And, for Kamala to take this time to make it political, now is not the time. Cut the bullshit. This is not the time.
It's grotesque as we look through the interviews that have been given DeSantis and Kamala. It's really, there's no other way to say it. It's a grotesque, cringy attempt to say that you're in charge when she really does have no role here. And she has, based on what DeSantis has said, never offered to do anything or help in any other storm. And now that she's running for office in a failed and failing campaign, she's attempting to take advantage of people's suffering to say that she's in charge. That is the lowest possible form of electioneering and grifting off of people's pain. It seems to us.
Most certainly. In fact, I'm no fan of Joe Biden, but Joe Biden has worked with DeSantis on a number of natural disasters and even talked with him recently about this next incoming natural disaster that we're going to have. I was at briefings just 2 days ago with Kathy Castor, who's a Democrat, Senator Rick Scott, and a number of other elected officials in the Tampa Bay region. So, you have the bipartisan support locally and at the state level and even at the White House. But it is evident that Kamala Harris did try to make this political. And I would just go back to say this, right now, a lot of people in my community are furious at the fact that they might not get their homes covered. And then you have her saying, we'll offer you $750. Meanwhile, literally 1.01 billion has gone to illegals. And so I think that it's important to know and for people to really pay attention. Benny, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to go home and have a home. And I'm not the only person. There's a lot of people in Pinellas and in Tampa Bay who are anticipating that they might not go back to anything, to I think include you. And so we don't know what's going to happen. We're, weeks out from a national election, but I think this needs to be the time where people realize, you want people in positions that have your interests, that are with you, that are on the ground, understanding things. And so I will say that, Kamala's response to all of this, not just in Florida, but I think in Georgia, as well as North Carolina, I think that speaks volumes and people really need to decide, who they want to rely on in times of crisis. And we are absolutely in a crisis right now.
So let's talk really briefly about what's happening in Asheville and Hurricane Helene and the devastation from Asheville to your district. Okay, so let's take that entire swath. There are millions of Americans without power, hundreds of thousands without clean water or food to eat. And Kamala Harris has grudgingly offered them $750, and FEMA is now groveling and bitching that they don't have any money. They did spend that money on criminal aliens. They did spend that money on a resettlement program. And so they are prioritizing criminal aliens over native-born Americans who are legally here to their own suffering. That is currently actively happening. We don't have to assume after this storm that may happen. It's actively happening now. That's got to make your blood boil, Congresswoman.
Oh, most certainly. In fact, I actually just sent a letter to the FEMA director that you can actually pull from online. You'll find it there, and inquired on exactly how that went about. I'm a member of oversight, so we're going to be investigating this. But I think more importantly, I did actually just sponsor a bipartisan bill to get $15 billion to go directly to impacted victims, not to go to housing illegals, directly to impacted victims. We give billions of dollars to foreign countries, Ukraine, for example, and yet we have people here, $750 if you go to Publix, can't even do 2 grocery shoppings if you have a family. So what is $750 going to do if you've lost everything? I mean, I don't know what to say other than I'm trying to do the best that I can, but it makes it a lot harder when you have people at the federal level who are making decisions that impact you and they have no idea the outcome and the implications of those decisions.
I hate playing with hypotheticals here, but since there is this phone call does seem to be something that quite irritated the governor of Florida. If Kamala Harris picked up the phone and called you, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to cut the bullshit and to do her job, to get us the funding and also the support that we need, and to leave her presidential campaign alone for right now and think about the fact that people are actually being hurt by her decisions.
Yeah. I will say, if you follow the media landscape, as Americans are dying in the mud and starving and losing everything, going on Call Her Daddy, a sex podcast, to like giggle about Donald Trump, it just doesn't seem serious.
Benny, I got off the phone yesterday as we were evacing up, to where we're at currently. And we have friends that have responded that are part of the Florida State Defense Force that responded actually to Asheville to go find some of these people. And they were using cadaver dogs to find bodies. And the comment that I heard that really sticks with me, and I think people should know, is that there was nothing left of some of these people. These cadaver dogs were finding entrails of Americans. This is not a war zone. This is Asheville, North Carolina. And to have her go on at that time, and even to have her running mate, Walt, in comparison, saying that he was going to activate the Minnesota National Guard to assist in Florida, and yet you have her response that seemed so catty and so minimizing and so about her instead of focusing on the fact that she needed to just be an adult. Even if Governor DeSantis didn't want to talk to her, whatever went on in that phone call, she still could have sent resources and let it be and not made it a political thing. And she did.
I think by definition, that means that you are unqualified for leadership when the people of your country are suffering and dying, and you use it as an opportunity to do a sex podcast and then to attack the very governor who's trying to help and the members of Congress who are trying to help.
That wasn't it. And again, DeSantis is doing amazing things. Even in Pinellas County, he was able to reallocate state resources and actually move a lot of the debris. And I believe that maneuver alone, whether or not people realize how important it was that he did that, that will save lives. Because when you have, a stove getting picked up and flying at you at potentially 140 miles an hour, that becomes basically a cannonball. It's going to kill people. And so that was a life-saving measure that he made executive decision on earlier. And I will continue to applaud his efforts. He's been incredible.
It's one of the reasons I moved my the most precious thing in my life. Yeah, is my family. And I moved it to Florida because of leadership like Ron DeSantis and yourself. This is Florida first leadership, right? We want America first leadership from the federal government. I think what is on demonstration right now is America last. And in closing, Congresswoman, I want to maybe give you an opportunity. I know you're a huge supporter of President Trump, and you just moderated an event with him in North Carolina. A couple of days ago before rushing home to serve your constituency in your district. There doesn't seem to be a more clear dilemma between America last policies versus America first policies than this election right now and this current crisis moment.
Yeah, I think that we're and it's very clear based on responding to these national disasters. But I think it's also more importantly that people are paying attention to what's happening from a foreign policy perspective. And when you see, people that are willing to give our resources to people who haven't paid into the system, we have people literally dying in North Carolina. People have died in my county of Pinellas. We had 12 people die. And I think based on what I'm seeing on these metrics, I think more people are going to die. And so it doesn't make me happy to have this conversation. It doesn't make me happy to have to tell people, if you do not leave, you are going to die. Please don't just look at us like talking heads on TV. Don't think that we're just doing these press conferences because we want the attention. This is for you guys. Get out with your life. And that's the best thing that you can do for yourself and your family. But again, you see just these problems that are impacting us that we are living. And then you see how just out of touch and not committed to the American people the current leadership is in Kamala Harris, and that's simply unacceptable. So all I will say is you guys have a very important decision to make in the next few weeks, and think about what people are doing in times of crisis. Look at their actions, not their words, and I think that you'll be led in the right direction.
Congresswoman, very briefly here at time of recording, apparently Kamala Harris just finished a hit on The View, once again doing the toughest media possible. She's on The View, and she once again blamed Ron DeSantis for not wanting help or treating her rudely. She once again played the victim on The View. She's not backing down from that, saying that Ron DeSantis is trying to make things worse here in the state of Florida. Has that been your experience?
No, Governor DeSantis has been incredible. He has been completely following up. I've been personally talking to his chief of staff on a regular basis. They are even monitoring the traffic cams out of Pinellas County. And if need be, by the time these next, I assume, evacuation orders will come through in the next few hours, if they need to, they will open up all lanes exiting Pinellas County so that people can evac. He has been incredible in leadership in response to this, and I look forward to his continued leadership in the state of Florida.
If the View were ever to invite you on, what would you have said to Kamala Harris here?
I would have told her again that she has no idea what's happening on the ground, that she has not even bothered reaching out or talking to the other elected officials. You know, she really wanted to help out with this hurricane. Why isn't she on the phone with the Pinellas County EOC? Why isn't she talking to the sheriff in our county? Why is she not sending resources? And why is she taking time to go on a news network instead of actually coming down to Tampa, where we're actually going to be hit the hardest? I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please leave if you cannot leave and you are in a structure that is not safe. It's not rated for Cat 3 or 4. If you're in a wooden structure, I would take my family and I would go to a shelter. Those shelters can be found online on the Tampa Gov website, also Pinellas.gov website. But this is not something to take for granted. Kamala Harris has no idea what's happening here in Florida, but you do. And you can find those resources online and just make sure that you're making the correct decisions to be safe.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. It's going to be a tough couple weeks, but this is a strong state. It's Florida strong state, and there's a lot of incredible and beautiful, wonderful Americans who live here in the state of Florida. And yeah, they have excellent leadership, and so we see the silver linings in all this. I know that Florida is going to be good. Please heed the Congresswoman's words and follow her on social media, as these updates have potentially saved my family. They've already saved my family, my personal family. My 3 children and pregnant wife have been assisted greatly by simply following the Congresswoman on social media and getting real-time updates about what's happening. I encourage you to do the same, and we're gonna stick through this thing, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, America Last on display. It is an important moment to recognize what's at stake in this election. It could be your home next time. It's my home this time. It could be yours next time. If you are in this area right here, which is the tracking pattern, please, please, please get out. They may not have power or wireless or cell phone service, depending on the devastation that happens, for a very long time. We use our Patriot Mobile phones whenever we are on the road. We're using them right now, part of our tethering system to get the show up and on line. Please consider using Patriot Mobile. They've gotten us out of a lot of jams. Whenever we travel, we use them, especially in emergency situations. I don't know what will happen if all the power lines go down. I don't think anyone will be online. But Patriot Mobile keeps us connected. They're incredible quality service. They support the First Amendment. They support our First Amendment to speak. And they have built out a company that allows us to speak and speak freely. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny, patriotmobile.com/Benny, call 972-PATRIOT. Right now, get a free month with the offer code Benny. Do not get fooled today by other providers who do not share your value. The only Christian conservative wireless provider in the country, and very important in times like these. Again, this is going to be a devastating storm. Looks like this. It just looks like the wall of death, right? And we don't want anyone to die. Part of the reason that we want to get online and that we want to show people what the hell is going on. In here is Sarasota. The congressman from Sarasota, Greg Steube, is a patriot, a veteran, and an incredible member of Congress who is joining the program now to heed a warning about what's going to happen in his district, which is right in this area. Greg Steube is going to stay and help, but he has some special arrangements for himself to make sure that he is secure, and he securely joins our program right now. Joining now, Congressman Greg Steube, whose district is directly in the path of the hurricane. You, Congressman, have not evacuated. Tell us an update from Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, we're sticking it out. Here's the biggest challenge on the ground. My district is still recovering from Hurricane Helene. Siesta Key, Lombo Key, Casey Key, Minnesota Key, Lido Key, all were flooded if they were like in the first level. Houses that were built in the last 10 years that were up did okay, but there is literally drywall, appliances, carpets, and crap all over Siesta Key and my barrier island communities that they're rapidly trying to get up off the ground, but these things are going to turn into projectiles if we're not able to get it all up. So that is issue, like that is the focus. Like my waste management right now, our Sarasota pickup, they're not even picking up in the county. Every single waste management truck and grappling truck and everything are on the Keys right now, trying to pick up all this stuff before the storm hits, because we're looking at 140, 150 mile an hour winds. You're going to have microwaves and appliances are going to turn into projectiles. The storm surge is going to come in and pick up all of this crap and then go right back out in the ocean. You're going to have drywall everywhere. You're going to have carpet everywhere. So that is the biggest challenge right now, is we are still recovering from Hurricane Helene on the barrier islands, and there is literally stuff everywhere. And that those same houses, those same communities are going to get hit even worse. The storm surge in Helene was 5 to 7 feet. If the eye goes where it currently is going now, we're going to see 10 to 12 foot surge. So that's like the second story. I mean, 10 feet is first level. You go 12 feet, you're into the second story of some of these houses. It's just going to be catastrophic. I don't wish it to go north and then hit Tampa, and there's going to be catastrophic storm surge there. But my district is still reeling from Hurricane Helene on the coastline. That is the number one biggest challenge right now.
So this is what many call a once-in-a-generation storm. I'm only a 3-year Florida resident, but everybody who is connected to this state for decades and decades, including all of my neighbors, have left Tampa, Florida. Everybody is saying, get out. Your advice to the people who are in your district, even though you are sticking it out in Sarasota, is to most likely go inland or where?
Yeah, but I'm not in the evacuation zone. So in Sarasota County, A, B, and C levels of evacuation have now been ordered. In Charlotte County, I think it's A and B, and in Lee County, definitely A. If you are in one of those areas that are ordered an evacuation, and if you don't know what area you're in, go to your county website. They have it all on a map. You can look very quickly and see if you're in one of these zones. If you are in a zone that your county has ordered an evacuation, you need to get out now. You should have gotten out today, but you got probably until tomorrow morning to get out, but you have to get out. The biggest challenge that I saw with Hurricane Helene is a lot of people stuck it out, especially on the barrier islands, and they literally got stuck in their homes. And now you're forcing the Lombo Key Police Department or Sarasota PD or Sarasota Fire Department to try to come and save you during a storm, and they can't get to you because they just physically can't get to you in 140 mile an hour winds. So if your zone has been ordered evacuated anywhere along western coast of Florida, you need to get out. Tampa Bay, downtown Tampa, coastal communities, you need to get out now. I know the interstate is a mess. You go around my district right now, it's hard to find gas, but you've got to get inland or get out of the state, because you are going to see, at least in my district, likely a 10 to 12 foot storm surge, and that will be catastrophic.
That means homes underwater, does it, Congressman?
Homes underwater, that means, so just talk my district out inside of the barrier islands, inside into Sarasota, like the mainland is going to see flooding all the way in, and that's not including the rain. I mean, you're going to get, we've been very wet here the last couple of weeks. I think we got 5 to 8 inches of rain over the weekend. It rained yesterday, and you're going to now dump another what could be 16 inches of rain on top of that. You're going to see massive flooding. So if you're not, I'm way out east, I'm out in the country, we're high. We're not in an evacuation zone. If I was in an evacuation zone, I would go where it's not an evacuation zone. So I strongly, strongly encourage any Floridian that is in an evacuation zone that has been ordered to leave to please leave, because you will then be a challenge for local law enforcement and rescue people to try to come and get you if something happens.
Yes, especially if you were able-bodied. As soon as we got word from your colleague, Anna Paulina Luna, who's been keeping so many people informed, and if you are following the members of Congress for your area, it's been really important to listen to the wisdom of people who go into the briefings like you do, Congressman. What do the briefings show right now from a state level for the storm?
Well, and that's a great point. If you're in my district, steube.house.gov, follow me on Twitter, Rep. Greg Steube. Like, we do exactly that. We just put out all the Sarasota County information that they just put out. Tonight in Sarasota County, they're going to shut down all the bridges. The water to Siesta Key and the Barrier Islands has been shut down as of 10 a.m. this morning. All of that type of information is on my Twitter, on our website, all of that. We constantly will retweet all of that so that everybody knows. The latest is it's looking like the eye is going to hit around Bradenton, which will be horrible for my district because we will be south. So we'll be looking at a 10 to 15 foot storm surge. Winds, I think I saw 140, 150 miles an hour. If you're on the coastline, obviously it's going to be worse than whether you're inland. But please just heed local law enforcement, heed local county evacuations. Please don't be one of those people that think you can stick it out. And next thing you know, you're floating in your home and you're calling the sheriff's department to come and save you, and law enforcement is now in danger to come and save you because you didn't evacuate.
Yes. This is such a great point, especially if you're somebody who believes in America first, if you're somebody who believes in the 10th Amendment, if you're somebody who believes in our divine right to make decisions for ourselves, then you've got to make wise decisions when given the opportunity and not depend on the federal government or the state government to come in and save you because you made an unwise decision. Especially if you have children, or again, if you have fuel in your tank and you have legs that can walk, get into that car and get out of those evacuation zones. They've evacuated our entire neighborhood. You do not want to be a drag on services that are desperately needed for those who might not have the capacity to leave as quickly as you, or just speaking for myself, as I did with my kids. And we just went north. We just went north to a friend's house, to a friend's house and staying with friends up north. So this is the best that we can do with our kids. So the question that we have right now is, how do we save more lives? It seems like Governor DeSantis is doing a spectacular job and is, major mobilization. When we were driving north, Congressman, we saw nothing but military vehicles, lineman vehicles, heavy moving equipment going south. What's your best advice for people with the trajectory of the storm as to where to go?
Well, definitely inland, or if you can, like you, get north and get out of the state and out of the path altogether. I had people that were in my district and Hurricane Ian hit and went inland to like Lakeland, Orlando, the middle part of the state, Arcadia, and then Arcadia gets flooded and trees got knocked down. So anywhere in the path of the storm, I think is going to be dangerous. So right now I would head north. If you're in or around my district or anywhere in Southwest Florida or Tampa or below, I know it's going to take time on the interstate, but the best thing is to get out of the path of the storm so that you're safe, especially, again, if you're in those evacuation zones. And I will say that the state is a much more nimbler than the federal government is. The federal government is an atrocity when it comes to these things. They would rather spend money on illegal immigrant, migrant housing than they are on American people. We've seen that with Hurricane Helene. You're going to see this here. The state has done what they can to mobilize things, but we got linemen up in still working in the northern part of the state. They're going to have to come down and mobilize here. So I expect in my part of the state, in Southwest Florida, we're going to be without power for a considerable long period of time. Even if it's a Cat 2 or 3 when it hits, we have been so wet here over the last couple of weeks. The trees are going to fall over and power lines are going to go down. So the other thing that people that are thinking about evacuating need to think about, can you go without power for 2 weeks to maybe a month? Out where I live, we were without power for 9 days when Hurricane Ian hit. I suspect it'll be worse than that because we have linemen all over the place because of Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Helene's response. So I would evacuate if you can evacuate. If you're in a place like where we're at and you got a generator and you can ride it out, then obviously you can do that. But this is one of those storms that I would tell people to follow their local governments, their county's advice. Don't listen to what the federal government is saying. Listen to what your counties are telling you to do. And if you're in an evacuation zone, please get out.
Congressman, so I know your past and your history. I have a feeling you're going to stay in your district, do everything you can to help save lives in your district. We obviously pray for the people in your district as we do in this area. There does seem to be a little bit of a turf war right now with Kamala Harris and Governor DeSantis. This is something that's broken across our social media feeds, where Kamala Harris, who has no role in hurricane preparedness, is now trying to insert herself into this storm and this disaster. I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, again, it's completely political. The Biden-Harris campaign is completely political and trying to use a tragedy like this and what recently happened with Helene to try to monopolize for political gain. It's kind of disgusting, frankly, that suddenly Kamala Harris is caring about Florida when I don't even think she's been here to campaign. She has zero play whatsoever in what's going on the ground. It is your local counties, your local cities, and certainly your state. So I applaud what Governor DeSantis has been doing. FEMA doesn't even get involved until later. Like I have counties in my district that still haven't gotten paid for FEMA reimbursement since Hurricane Ian, which was 2 years ago. So you can't be reliant on FEMA and the federal government. And quite frankly, they're more concerned about housing illegal immigrants than they are about the people that have suffered from these hurricanes. So we're in Florida. We're used to this. We do this every year. And unfortunately, we have to deal with this, but we are very nimble at the state level. We are very nimble at the county level. We are all experienced in dealing with these storms. So listen to those people, and those are the people that are going to save lives.
Yeah. Given your past and your record, it probably comes as no shock to you, but I think a great many millions of Americans are pretty disgusted at FEMA and their inability to help people in Appalachia, their inability to help anybody other than a criminal alien in this nation, and to prioritize people who aren't actually Native Americans when they need help. I mean, I thought it was us who funded FEMA for this exact reason, but I guess I must be wrong.
And I hope people remember that when they go to the polls in November. And I hope people that don't typically vote see that and go to the polls to vote for Trump, because he's the only person that can turn this around.
Yes, America. That's what America First is, right? America First means we put Americans first, especially those who are suffering. We pray there is little suffering in your district, but based on the way this is all looking, it looks like it's going to be one hell of a storm. So we'll keep praying. Thank you, Congressman, so much for your time and for your warning. Heed the Congressman's warning. Once again, here's the Congressman Steube's social media. So follow him for updates. I know that their team is doing an incredible job of posting updates and up-to-date information. Make sure you're locked in with members of Congress and elected officials who are part of these briefings, who can give you the information fast, quickly, and accurately. Godspeed,
Thanks, Benny.
Congressman.
Stay safe.
You too. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we must implore you once again: your homes, your cars, your whatever you see as your treasure can all be replaced. Insurance or whatever. Your life can't be replaced. The lives of your children and family can't be replaced. You must seek safety. We've seen this sadly up close in our charity work that is ongoing throughout the Carolinas and may actually have to be retooled to the state of Florida. We're going to be there to help. This is what we've been doing in the Carolinas. We've been sending aid packages. We sent nearly 20,000 pounds of aid and equipment and generators and Starlinks and food and water and baby formula. We've sent and done as much for them as we can, given the circumstances. And now we're going to be here for our home state. And when it is safe, trust us, we are going to be back and we're going to be assisting those in need. Will it be my house that gets wiped from the earth? So be it. These are acts of God. I just pray that our Lord and Savior protect my children who cannot be replaced. Everything else, you just gotta say, you know what? It's in God's hands. Same thing we say about this election, ladies and gentlemen. It's why we are intent on keeping the pedal to the metal. The polls are swinging wildly against Kamala Harris and swinging atrociously in favor of America First policies. It's a wonderful thing. America First policies. It's a wonderful thing. This is what it is on screen right now. This is what America First policies look like. It's the only way that you should live. You know, it should be Florida first for the Florida government and America first for the American government. And this is what it looks like in practice. That's a good place. This is a high trust society. You don't want to live in a zero trust society. And you certainly don't want to live in whatever globalist hellscape they have planned for us at the World Economic Forum or inside of the power structures of the Democrat Party. So please, I beg of you, vote America first. People's lives literally depend on it. The other best thing that we can do is give you hope and silver linings, and we do that through our verse of the day from Isaiah 43. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through fire, you will not be burned. We are deeply, deeply, profoundly thankful that we were able to get out. We know that many, many thousands, tens of thousands or millions, hopefully, will join us. We can see people leaving, evacuating. Just remember that we are only here because of God's grace, and that we are only survive. You know, this country remains because of the hand of God. We were at Trump's Butler rally, and I don't think God's done with us yet. I don't think God's done with America yet. If he was, I'm not sure Trump would be here with us, and he said so on stage. And so keep the faith, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, to keep praying. Okay, pray for Florida specifically right now. It's your boy Benny broadcasting, and we'll have more coverage of all of this throughout the week. And we're prepared. We're prepared to help. So God be with you, and march on to victory. America first, now more than ever. See ya.
Guess what? What? F you, FEMA! F you! F you! Hey, guess what I got in this bag?
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.